teacher's job is to bring forth that which they would like the others to see.
Yeah.
And I think a very skillful teacher is able to affect those around them through different means, all the means that are at their disposal. I would caution myself that I'm able to speak to each person, because if I can't, then my room is just me and a bunch of vegans.
Totally hear you. Yeah.
And they can be fun. They can be fun, but it, again, like, the diversity is kind of what makes it key. So I'm interested in having the conversation.
What the hell is up, everybody? My name is Jamie Logan, and today I am here with Jules Febre, the famous Jules Febre.
Hello.
The one and only. He is a senior Jivamukti Yoga teacher. He is known for his physically demanding practice. I want to understand how you were first introduced to yoga. I mean, you were born into a family where your aunt and uncle founded Jivamukti Yoga.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you started practicing at the age of 6. When do you feel that you really connected with yoga, where it wasn't just pushed on you, but you truly connected with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was different moments, different times. Maybe it's fair to say that I was born into a family that had yoga. So my mom wasn't really practicing, and my dad for sure wasn't practicing. But yeah, like you said, aunt and uncle practicing. And so I always had maybe 2 approaches to growing up. One was kind of a yogic perspective, and one of them was a Lower East Side, New York perspective. David was interested in seeing how yoga might be effective with young people, like super young, and also interested in the idea of how would maybe a young boy or a young girl not just be attracted to yoga, but what they might find from it. But they don't have kids, Sharon and David. So my mom sacrificed her firstborn child to the yoga gods. And yes, I started practicing yoga with David and one other young girl at the age of 6. I had that in life the whole time. And then when I was 13, I had one friend who shot and killed himself playing You Love Me Not, Russian roulette with his girlfriend on the phone, and he had a revolver. And then I had another friend that was in a very bad fight, and he was stabbed from his pubic bone to his sternum. And then another friend who went to jail for 5 years, all like in the same couple of days, couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. But and at that time I was 13, and I said I could keep kind of going down this road, or I could have us go more fully into the yoga. And so I asked Sharon and David, could I go with you to India? And this is maybe 1994. And they said you can come to India with 2 pre-requirements. The first is that you memorize the Ashtanga series of yoga asana. And then the second one was that I had to be vegetarian, which I was not at the time. And so we did both those things. I went to India at 13, spent 2 months in Mysore practicing the early shift with Pattabhi Jois.
Wow.
Then did a month up north in kind of Brudge area with Shamdas. And then got back to America, and I thought, I am never going to do yoga again. This is not for me. Pattabhi Jois, Mysore, India, vegetarianism. Also, vegetarianism was very difficult for me at the time. We spent some time in Sarah May Monastery, which is this, recreation of the Sarah May Monastery from Tibet. And we spent time with a young Buddhist monk who he's Spanish, so he was a reincarnation of a monk that had passed away at some point, a very highly venerated monk. This young monk, who's about my age, seen as an incarnation, was a reincarnation of someone, was able to have sandwiches that had meat in them. And I was very, very confused about this. And so I think at that point, there were a lot of rules without a lot of understanding. And I still had these kind of two ways of being. And so when I came back, I went right back to hanging out with my friends. My quote unquote non-yoga crew.
The gang.
The gang.
So then after you came back and then kind of rebelled, what brought you back into yoga?
I think rejected, wasn't interested. I mean, it was still kind of always around a little bit, but it wasn't really my full-time focus. And then at the age of 17, I was arrested for armed robbery. And I was sitting in New York City Central Bookings in a room that's probably double the size of this, or maybe a little bit less than double the size of this, with like 30 other grown guys. And people are there for all sorts of things, because Central Bookings is the first place you enter before you go and see the judge or go on to other places. And so I was looking around, and then I just kept hearing this chant that we do at Jivamukti that was on repeat. And it's from Padmaji, from Sharon Ji. And it's a kind of a take on the prayer of St. Francis, or sometimes called the Lord's Prayer. Make me an instrument for thy will, not mine but thine be done. Free me from anger, jealousy, and fear. Fill my heart with joy and compassion. This chant, which I hadn't chanted in a long time, was going through my mind. And I'm sitting in a large holding cell with many other guys. And inside my mind is like, and I'm like, you better shut up with this chant. It's time to be like strong. Like, you have to be tough in this situation. We don't know how it's going to be going for you. Of thy will. And like, it just keeps going through. And there's somebody on the phone, like yelling, like, yeah, I don't know what I'm getting. And then it's like, free me from anger. And you have to know, when we chant this in the teacher training, everybody is like wearing white and their arms are up and it's going through my mind. And it's like, ugh. And, but then I kind of just softened to it, and it clicked a little bit. And I realized that all of the things that I was searching for in this world, I could find within the yoga community, within the satsang that I had, within the other relationships that I had been neglecting. That a feeling of respect for myself and for others, to feel that from others, to have a certain sense of belonging, a certain sense of responsibility also, of being seen. There's so many things that I was searching for in this group of friends. And some of them I'm still friends with, of course, but I could find it without others having to be reduced. And so in that moment, when I was in the cell, I had just decided either I could do this, what I'm doing, or I could do the other thing. Like, it was kind of like a moment to choose. And so I just said, look, even if I end up staying inside for a little while, I'm just going to do yoga.
Wow.
That's gonna be my goal, to just dedicate my life to yoga practice.
Why do you think we have to get to this place of suffering, this pain, to find something enlightening? Like, I shared earlier today during the talk that I was burning out as an animal rights activist, and I needed to find some sort of foundation to act from in order to continue doing the work that I'm doing. And that's where I decided, okay, fine, like, I'll step into a yoga class.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm not of the opinion that suffering should go away. I think suffering should stay, and suffering has a pretty good role in our life. And maybe we don't need it as much as it comes. Maybe there's some places that we could reduce the suffering in the world. And I think it's an honorable and high goal to want to reduce the suffering in the world. But I find that most of the times when I'm comfortable, nothing really changes. And it is not until I'm uncomfortable that I can recognize. And sometimes the discomfort comes with somebody saying, look, I don't appreciate what you did. Or do you know what's on your plate? Or like, these moments of friction sharpen the attention. And it has been like this always. I mean, to be in the forest alone is to be a little bit in danger. And that sharpens one to find a greater sense of how much we're actually relying on the world and to choose wisely. Like most wild animals are, they're skittish, they're running away from danger all the time because all it takes is one thing to go wrong. And life is maybe done, or it's going to be dramatically shortened.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're not going to live as long if your leg breaks in the wild. You're not going to live as long if your wing breaks in the wild. And somehow we've gotten quite maybe comfortable, and we've lost a little bit of those moments of friction that awaken us to the need, whatever that need may be.
It's almost as if the problems we face, it gives us an opportunity to practice compassion. And when we talk about enlightenment, we talk about people that dedicate their life towards these spiritual practices. They are in the material world. And so when all these problems come their way, the question is, how do they face it? And that is what determines their state of being and their state of mind. If everything was just peaceful for us all the time and there were never any issues, it would, probably be pretty easy to, be compassionate and feel happy and enlightened. But the real test is when we're faced with problems in the world.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying that I've bumped into many problems and didn't learn from them right away.
Yeah.
And it takes some time, and not every problem comes with little fortune cookie lesson. Oh, you have suffered. Here is your lesson for today. It's like, this is usually not what happens.
No.
For many of us, it's like, okay, why am I in the same relationship again?
Right.
Why am I still having the same argument with this family member? Why am I still having this disagreement? Why am I still having money issues, or whatever the issue is? A lot of times we keep kind of hitting our head.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us need to hit our head harder than others. I'm constantly hitting my head.
How does yoga provide some sort of guidance or framework to exist in this world and overcome struggles?
Yeah, yoga provides a really, so they have these yoga blocks, these wooden blocks. And so that's a really good thing to hit your head on. If you run out of obstacles, you can just hit your head on these things. It's very helpful.
Right. I'll have to try that.
Yeah. You try an Iyengar block. They're heavier.
Okay.
They're like a tree. Don't do the cork ones.
Oh,
the foam ones.
Those are the ones I have. Okay.
So what was the question?
How does yoga have anything to do with helping us overcome problems? I think a lot of people just consider it a workout and let me just go try to become more flexible. It can be that for people, but totally. How could it be something more? For you, it was something more.
Yeah, I think maybe also something to be interested about, which is how we're defining yoga. And I think a lot of people coming from different traditions might say yoga is something different. So I'm not a strong believer that underneath everything is one. I do think that there are some differences between traditions, and those differences are meaningful and valuable, and it's what allows for such variety and flavor, which is beautiful. But I would say yoga as I practice it, and yoga as I've experienced it and as I've learned it from my teachers, is often a process of being comfortable with holding paradoxical concepts or ideas simultaneously. And for me, that usually shows up in the sense of, I am an individual. The individual has meaning and value. How do I square that with the idea that maybe there's an essential nature, there's a greater consciousness of which I am a part? How do I hold the concept of Ahimsa, which is non-harming, along with the idea that life feeds on life in some form or fashion? How do I hold those two in tension with some level of respect and maturity for the spectrum of answers that are available between those tensions? So I think what I'm interested in when I'm practicing yoga or teaching yoga, let's say physical, the workout portion, I have a body and mind. And although there might be something more to me, my body and mind are super important. So why not asana? Why not movement? Why not running, jogging, judo, whatever your thing is? Why not that? And if you could do that with a certain level of honor for the incredible miracle that your body even exists, for the incredible miracle of this world that we're in, with the remembrance that we're so dependent on things like fresh water, clean air, the sun, then you have the two. You have kind of the rugged sense of individualism. I'm doing my physical movement paired with this individual is part of a greater whole. And yoga is often interested in making these types of connections, is my feel.
And I find that with the physical practice, you become more aware of your breath. And through that, you're able to become more present in the moment because simply put, some of it's painful at times. So instead of thinking about everything that I have to do on my to-do list later, I become very present in that moment because I'm just thinking about, oh, my hamstring's kind of tight here.
Yeah.
And in Jivamukti, we talk a lot about that this is the flow of energy through the body and that our body holds on to karma. Can you talk a little bit about how asana correlates to that? How physical practice correlates to this energetic movement in the body?
Yeah, sure.
Unless you don't feel that way.
No, I mean, yeah, this is, all right, so let me just start by saying the idea of karma is has such a long tradition in history.
Yeah.
And in some traditions, yoga's goal is to help purify past karma, to get an understanding of right action in the present so that they no longer accrue karma that is negative to their state of being, so that they can live a life that has maybe a few less obstacles between themselves and their goal, whether it's Krishna consciousness or seeing the underlying essential nature or recognizing the svarup, the true self. I think sometimes these ideas that have thousands of years of conversation with each other. So a Buddhist idea of karma might be different than a Jnana yogi's idea of karma, might be different than a Jain idea of karma. I mean, and the Jains, we have a lot to thank the Jain tradition for when it comes to Ahimsa. I mean, they are really playing some of the roots of this movement of Ahimsa. And I'm sure some people have probably seen the Jains monks who are very dedicated to their practice with a mask so they don't inhale the bugs. They're sweeping the floor so they don't step on them. The idea of karma in our body, another way of saying this, is very much echoed in the words of Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote this book called The Body Keeps Score. And so he's at Boston Medical, and he's looking at how trauma may not be really in our cognition. Like we might dissociate from an experience, whether it's a big T trauma, like a big impact, or small T trauma, something that kind of accumulates over time. We might find a way to dissociate from that trauma, and we don't recognize it, we don't honor it, we don't give it its space. But even though it's not in our conscious thinking mind, it is still somehow in this structure of the body, mind, heart space. And yoga can help us to get in touch with our physical body, which is of course related to our emotions. There's a lot of very interesting scientific research that is looking at when one is better able to be in their body, they are more able to access things like empathy, compassion, altruism. Because if you do not have an understanding of your own emotions and physical ailments or successes, then it's harder for you to relate to the suffering of another. So if I'm able to feel really good and know how to cultivate that and know how to work with that, then I'm more likely to recognize that in others. And the same is true if I'm able to recognize, oh, this is sadness, this is suffering, and I can recognize that in others. But if I disallow, if I push it away. So asana is not a practice of pushing things away. And perhaps we've all experienced those yoga practitioners, spiritualists, those in the world that start to explain away their trauma without actually dealing with it.
Mm.
Oh, that's my past karma. That's in the past. So I've purified this. How do you know?
Right.
This is what they would call maybe spiritual bypassing. Yeah.
Okay.
Like oh yes, I have achieved this great, I'm no longer attached. That's another form of dissociating from the signals that your body's telling you. Either slow down or speed up, or you're hurting and it's okay to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes yoga gets confused with control. Like this kind of very high ideal, Western ideal of I'm going to control my emotions, I'm going to control my mind, and this is not going to bother me because I'm of equanimity. I'm doing this for service, but then complaining about the service.
Right.
Doing it out of love, but do they love me? So it's a little bit this direction.
I think the most helpful thing for me has been to recognize that things will pass. That yes, I'm feeling sad in this moment, and that's okay, and that's normal, but it's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what yoga has helped me, is with just becoming more of that witness. And as a yoga teacher, I'm curious what you think our role and our responsibility is in talking about the world's issues and really taking these teachings of Ahimsa into the classroom.
I think a really good teacher is also a really good student and is very interested. And I think of a student as somebody who's very curious, wants to know, questions, wants to understand why something is working. I was talking to, we're at Govardhan Eco Village.
Yes.
Created by the wonderful Radhanath Swami. And the other day, him and I were discussing something and somebody else was there and they asked him a question. And it was, I don't remember what the question was exactly, but the question was something, of a spiritual nature or something. And they said, do you know about this? I brought an Swami just, he does. I have to admit that I learn the most when I just simply say I don't know. And he laughs kind of with his whole body. And a student often comes with the approach of I don't know. And a teacher sometimes gets stuck in the realm of I do know. And when that happens, they miss a lot of really important feedback. And so sharing what you believe to be a firm moral and ethical foundation is really good as a teacher, because it shows a certain level of high character, that you're not willing to only teach what people want to hear, but what you truly believe will help move and open their heart or their minds in some way. I'm sure that there are many of us, probably myself included, which sometimes shy away from saying things because they think it will upset, ruffle feathers, and affect their bottom line. Maybe I won't have so many people in class. So again, there's this tension between, if you're teaching yoga and it is your job, and this is how you're in the world, and you still have a moral and ethical framework, how do you say what is true? And how do you also allow people to feel included and not pushed away? It's not an easy thing, whether it comes to something like a genocide in southern Sudan or in Gaza, or if it's the slaughtering of millions of billions of animals. How can you say your piece, expect that you're going to get some pushback, but know enough, be curious enough to say oh, I shared something strongly. And of course, I'm going to get a strong response. How can we find some common ground?
Right. Yeah. And I think some students are more receptive than others. It's just, especially when it comes to yoga classes where the foundation is peace, love, ahimsa, non-harming, I find it very confusing how anybody that considers themselves to be a yoga practitioner, how they could not be vegan. For me, it is the bare minimum of incorporating nonviolence in your everyday life. 3 times a day, you have an option to choose a meal that chops animals' heads off and separates mothers and babies and pushes baby chicks in grinders, or choosing something that causes and reduces suffering and aims to end exploitation. We can't be perfect living as human beings, but we can reduce harm where possible. So Yeah, like what are your thoughts on that? How could somebody that is a spiritual practitioner and somebody that's a yogi not be vegan?
Yeah. Do you want me to steel man the case? Do you want me to argue it from their side, or what's the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is going through their heads? How could that be?
I've learned through much trial and error that trying to guess what is in people's head is usually a fail for me. I think that I know what's in people's head, and then it turns out I'm very wrong. Part of what you're saying reminds me that because I have Ahimsa as the main, let's say in this case, Ahimsa is the main goal, right? And it comes in the form of potentially adopting an ethical vegetarian diet, which is to say, not just plant-based, but none of my clothes are, to the extent that I know of, have any animal products in them. None of the shoes, none of the cosmetics, none of the shampoo, none of the
an ethical vegetarian. It's vegan, right. Veganism, yeah.
And so I think that can be a very high goal, and it's very good. But the goal is not for me to be a vegan. The goal is for me to reduce suffering. And so those two are not the same end. So the end is reduction of the suffering. The goal is not veganism, like just in this example, right? So that means that if the goal is to reduce suffering, and the animal suffering is a huge part of the suffering that's in the world, human, animal, natural, wild animal, and animals raised for food, animals in the ocean. If that is my goal, then what is required is as big or broad of a coalition as possible. So who I want to sit down and talk to are the people who are saying, look, I eat meat 3 times a day, 7 days a week, and I'm interested in going down to 6 days a week, because that gets me closer to the goal, if the goal is to reduce the sum total of pain and suffering caused to animals, then to continue with that. And I think this is a large part how people were effective when it comes to reducing human slavery in the world. What they did, they started, especially in England, they didn't start with saying, maybe referring to the slaves themselves, but they said, look, a lot of white slavers and sailors are dying on these trips. And in some cases, even more sailors are dying on these trips than slaves, because the slaves are the product. And you see the same thing in the animal industry. There is sometimes more attention on the final product, which is getting the meat to the market, than it is on the butcher or the factory workers. So if the factory workers gets injured as an undocumented citizen, they lose a finger or a hand, you get them out and you get another one in. There's no insurance. There is no care for this person. And so if we start with somebody and say, look, the factory workers need better conditions, that transfers into the factory has better conditions. That transfers into looking at the system as a whole. Why are we even killing animals to begin with? The whole process seems... So, although I agree to a certain extent with your premise, like in an ideal world, this would be my choice. Like if I could just make a button, okay, if you're teaching yoga, are you vegan? Yes. But it would also be true that if I was saying, if you are a human being, could you be vegan? Yes. I would also hit that button. But I wouldn't want to lose the teachers, the students, and the friends who are reducing their amount of harm through our constellation, through our association, by telling them that they're not enough because they haven't met my form of ideal. Those are my thoughts on that. That's
assuming goodwill out of them, though, that they are reducing and that they do see it as a problem. I run into yogis and just people in general where they don't even see this as a problem that they should focus on. It's like they want to talk about changing the world and how they're such activists in so many other ways, but then when this actually requires them to do something in their everyday life, they don't want to do it. So that I would push back and say, well, there's actually yogis that don't even see veganism as a social justice issue.
Yeah, I mean, there are yogis who say that yoga also shouldn't have Sanskrit. There are yogis who say yoga shouldn't have chanting, or there was a studio in LA that said, no chanting, no Sanskrit, just yoga. And I was very interested in that because yoga is a Sanskrit word. So it says no Sanskrit, just yoga. This is already like a weird
But
mix.
that doesn't have a victim at the end of it.
Right. But what I'm saying is there's no victim at the end of it, but it's a misunderstanding or a misplacement of attention.
Right.
And so a teacher's job is to bring forth that which they would like the others to see.
Yeah.
And I think a very skillful teacher is able to affect those around them through different means, all the means that are at their disposal. So I don't think that we're disagreeing necessarily.
Yeah.
I would caution myself that I'm able to speak to each person, because if I can't, then my room is just me and a bunch of vegans.
Totally hear you. Yeah.
And they can be fun. They can be fun, but it, again, like the diversity is kind of what makes it key. So I'm interested in having the conversation.
That makes sense. Yeah, we don't want to be in a room that's just full of the same people. It's like that echo chamber. How can you actually instill and incite change if you're just talking to the people that agree with you?
Yeah.
But just in the yoga world in general, Jivamukti is a small part of that. There's many different methods out there. There are a lot of vegans in Jivamukti, which is very exciting. Not everyone. People are working on it and hopefully getting there. But why are you a vegan yogi?
Why am I a vegan yogi? So as we talked about already, Sharon and David, Aunt and Uncle, also my teachers, and telling me for a long time this veganism thing. And this is like in the 90s, and vegan food in the 90s, super gross, and not so nice. And I wasn't really into it, and I saw it kind of as their thing, and okay, fine, but that's not for me. And then when I was in high school, I met a guy, in my class. I went to a new high school, and I met this guy, and I thought he was really cool, really funny, really smart, really critical. And I was like, oh, fine, I have somebody to talk to. And then we went out to lunch, and he ordered a vegan meal. I was like, and then we went out to lunch again, and then we were talking about it. And he was a graffiti writer, and he was doing really what I thought at the time was really cool things. And he was connected to the similar culture of hip hop. We were in the same high school and in the same neighborhood. And I thought, okay, it's not just for weird old yogis. It's also for these people.
We love you, Sharon and David.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, I can also do this. And when I graduated high school, that was kind of my gift to myself. I'm going to be vegetarian. And then I was just eating a lot of egg and cheese sandwiches. And I felt like a walking fart.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just so gassy. Super gross. And so then I realized, that was a moment when I realized how much what you eat affects your body. And I had just made, I've seen all the movies at the time. I had seen all of the documentaries, and I just felt, okay, I'd just go 100% of the way. So then I became vegan, and then I really didn't know what to eat. So I was just eating potatoes, baked potatoes, French fries, potato chips, mashed potatoes. And this is also not so great for your body.
No.
And so then I just learned, I got a recipe. I can't remember, Vegan World or something like this. It's a really big recipe book. And I just cooked a new recipe every day almost for a month. So I got to learn all different vegetables, all different ways of cooking from all over the world. I spent a lot of time in Chinatown and in Indian markets and in different grocery stores. It really opened my eyes to how limited my food choice had been and how kind of small my window of what is and when it comes to food.
And this was over 20 years ago, and it's only getting better and more options available.
Definitely.
And I think when you go vegan, it's like that mindset shift of you just stop seeing animals as food and you actually look at the meat and think, oh, like that was someone who didn't want to die. And Yeah, so it becomes unappetizing in a way, at least for me.
Definitely. I mean, it definitely comes out. Like, there's nothing in me that wants to eat meat.
No.
But I had, like, growing up eating it, every once in a while I smell it. I'm like, I know some people are like, oh, no, it doesn't smell good. To me, it still smells really good, which is a testament to that it's not really the meat so much as it is the seasoning.
Totally.
And so learning how to cook is very, very important.
And you have a young child, Rio, little person, just turned 5.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what it's been like being a dad, first of all, like what you've learned from that experience and raising a vegan baby.
Yeah. We have to do a little caveat. So when we're at home, 100% vegan.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any non-vegan things there. In Germany, it's illegal to have a kindergarten that is 100% plant-based.
Gotcha.
They don't allow it.
Right.
And so he's in kindergarten. And so we do the best that we can. We make sure that he gets oat milk instead of the regular milk. But, you know, sometimes there's cheese and things.
Right.
And so we do our best. Like if there's a birthday party, we bring our own vegan things. Actually, one of the things that has been very tricky in Germany, they're very much into these Haribo gummy bears.
Oh, the gelatin.
Gelatin. And this has been kind of the tricky thing. So we have a stash. Rio can't watch this. We have a stash of gummy bears and candies that are vegan, so that when Halloween comes, or like, so he gets to go out and do all the trick-or-treating.
Right.
But if he wants to eat something with his friends when we're out, we swap.
Yeah.
We swap the candies and we kind of redistribute the candies to the other friends. And then he has his own kind of vegan stash. And that is a Martina idea, so big up to Martina.
Yes.
And actually, one of the things that's been super helpful, I was just not so long ago on a call with Kip Anderson.
I was on the call, yes.
And J Mac in South Africa, who both have children around the same age. We had a conversation a little bit before the call started, because when Kip did the Jivamukti teacher training, I was his mentor when we were in Costa Rica, and we've seen each other and we've stayed in touch a bit. It was really inspiring to hear from these two dads who are going the extra step to make sure that their kids are being raised vegan. And it reminded me of like, you know what, I could do more. You know, once a week or twice a week with the cheese thing doesn't have to be. I can put more of an effort on this. That's really helpful. Even though I was just a moment ago, I said, you know, who needs to be around a bunch of vegans all the time? It can be really helpful to re-inspire our community.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, you also don't want your kid feeling like they're left out of everything and then they grow up and they're like, they rebel.
Yeah.
So
find Chloe Joe.
She
did the Girly Girl Army. That was like all the vegan products, skincare, and but she was raising her kids. I can't remember if she has 2 or 3 kids, and she would always say, she's making cakes and she's doing everything, but there was always the feeling of wanting to include or make sure that this kid was not excluded, but there's always a little bit of that atmosphere of being excluded. And, you know, I wasn't raised vegan.
Me either.
And so there is this, like, I'm starting from my own autonomy, my own choice. And so how can I encourage and let him know, like, look, these are our rules for home. Here's why we're doing it.
Right.
And so we have lots of vegan books for kids. Yes. In German and in English.
Yeah.
And actually it's a little bit disturbing because some of those books are pretty dark.
Oh.
And so he asks to read them, like he'll read them. And so he says, can I, in German, können wir die Tote Tier Gefängnisbuch lesen? Can we read the Dead and Jailed Animals book?
Oh no!
And when he says it also in German, you know, like, and I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. Can we read the book about the dead animals and the jailed animals? Because it shows like that they're in jail. And
yeah.
So he knows, he's aware of it. And when we go by a butcher shop, he asks, are those dead animals?
Oh.
And we say yes. And he says, you know, when he's with his friend Saikita, he goes, do you know so-and-so is eating dead animals?
Oh.
But
he's a little activist.
Yeah, but we are getting to the point where he's getting more curious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is this? How is it working? why are people doing it? And trying to answer him honestly and truthfully is getting more and more of a dance.
Right. It is a dance. It is a dance. But I think that being truthful is important. I felt that I was lied to as a kid, and it led to so much confusion for me where I would then not trust my parents about other things. I just had wished that they had been more honest, but I also lied to myself. Like I thought, oh, the animals just kind of like die quickly, or, that it's humane, grass-fed, whatever. But that's so wonderful because I think that, you are such a resource for other parents that are going through the same thing. I have a lot of people that I know that have kids and that are figuring out how to navigate this non-vegan world.
I mean, everybody was scared for Martina being pregnant and vegan.
Oh, yeah.
People were scared raising a vegan child. It's often the case that we get a lot of unasked for opinions. Yeah. I think, it's... Do you know Will Tuttle?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to do 2 sessions with him because he has a new book out. But his previous book, World Peace Diet, he really speaks so clearly and so eloquently about how intimate our food choices are, and how so much of what we learn to eat, we learn from our parents, we learn from our culture, and that when somebody challenges that, whether explicitly by asking to go vegan or implicitly by just choosing something different, we feel like it's not just our own personal choices that are being challenged, but what we learn from our parents, what we learn from our culture, what we learn from the medical establishment. So there is a lot of unseen forces at play.
It takes a little bit of a rebel, and your rebel nature has been turned, I think, to good. To been redirected. So as we begin to wrap things up, I am super curious how you go about keeping your classes new and refreshing after 20 plus years of teaching, and like how do you maintain your own practice while doing this? It can be a lot of your energy being pulled by other people.
I have a would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather practice the same sequence and chant every day?
Oh.
Or would you rather have to plan something new every single time you talk?
First one.
First one.
Definitely.
Why the first one?
I feel like I can then monitor progress with the first one. And it's also, you learn new things every time with it. I mean, I practice, for a year at least, I practice Spiritual Warrior every morning, which is just a set sequence. It's 1 hour. And I still find that it gives me what I need from it.
Yeah, so I guess this is the question that a different version of that question I ask myself, because instead of, how do I keep it fresh, I'm having to ask, what am I teaching? And am I believing what I'm teaching? And to what extent do I believe what I'm teaching? How open to critique and criticism is this thing that I'm teaching? Because I believe, it's doing the same thing all the time has a lot of power. And there are so many things that we do every day, and why change them? But also, there is the sense that in order for it to be living, it has to be in conversation with other traditions and other practices and other teachers. So I keep it fresh by, can I sit in on somebody else's class in the Bhakti tradition to hear perspective? Maybe there's some things there that I really agree with and resonate, and then there's other things that I leave there for someone else. For a long time, I did very basic things, like we have a talk in the Jivamukti class, writing out my talk, and then there are times when I just let it be spontaneous. So also the other day, Radhanath Swami came and talked to our group, and he said, just before he got on stage, is there anything you would like me to talk about?
You're like, what? I can't hear you.
He didn't even, he just showed up receptive. And I think that can only happen from somebody who's making a practice to be present and study and be curious and involved all the time. And then he talked about the thing that I asked him to talk about. And then he talked about whatever he wanted to talk. Like, he obviously also had a little bit of an agenda because it was Shiva Ratri. So he knew he wanted to talk about Shiva. My teaching is alive because it's fresh through the questioning. The questioning is, what does my body have today when I get on the mat? Like, I don't know what my Paschimottanasana is going to 100% be like. Don't know 100% what handstand is going to feel like. I have a general idea of the direction that I'm going. I'm super curious. If I find a teacher that I enjoy, somebody sharing something, I make it my business to be with them. And asking for feedback. Totally. Super helpful. But meaning it. Sometimes people say, I had feedback. And then you say, well, here's my thing. And I go, oh, yeah, you know why I did that?
No.
Yeah, I was not interested in the why right now. Right. I'm just letting you know about my experience.
Totally. It's the humility that you're describing. And even when it comes to devotion and it's like recognizing that we can learn new things and that we're like these little ants walking around on the earth and there's things that are greater. And so it's very humbling and it's so wonderful to learn from you and to be here for the past few days. So thank you for having me.
Inviting me to this podcast.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, where can people find you and stay connected with you?
Super easy website, julesfebre.com. I run an online platform, Liberation Lab, which I very much enjoy. And this is where we really take some of the ideas that I'm kind of expressing more fully. So we have a book club that meets once a month. In the books, we've been very fortunate to have so many special guests join us. The authors of these books join us. We have once a month satsang. We have asana classes. But it's really, enlightenment seems to be the exception and not the rule. So if we are not fortunate enough to get enlightened, how can these practices at least increase the quality of not just our life, but of our time together here on this earth?
And your impact on others.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's really something to keep in mind is like, if you're able to work on you, the way you show up in the world is, I think, more impactful. So thank you for being a light. And it's such an honor for you guys to have listened to this. Please go follow Jules. You can go to his website, julesfebre.com. Also your Instagram.
It's probably just Jules Febre.
Okay, we'll link it below.
Sure, yeah.
We'll link it. And Liberation Hour, definitely check that. Liberation Lab, definitely check that out. I'm at It's Jamie's Corner. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I'll see you around.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.